Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special Father's Day edition of Snap Take. I'm Glazer of the Snap Judgments podcast, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone, and I couldn't wait any longer to bring you this special Galactus deck. In addition to this deck being so cool, as this goes up over on the Marvel Snap Zone YouTube, is This Week in Marvel Snap. So please go check that out. I'm going to leave a link to that video in the description. Both videos are going up at the same time. I felt like it's a good way to give people here a sample of what I'm doing over at Marvel Snap Zone, and the people Marvel Snap Zone a good sample of what I'm doing over here. So hopefully you enjoy the content this fine Sunday. In addition, if you are, please subscribe and leave a comment. My comment isn't even Marvel Snap related. I'm kind of curious what you're doing for Father's Day. I'm grabbing my son. He's 7. He's a great kid. We're going to the Bronx to visit my dad. We're going to go to our favorite restaurant. It's like the family restaurant. It's called Fratelli's. We love it. We're going to have a nice lunch together, all together, and then we're going to go back to my dad's house and just hang out for the day. It's going to be a nice, quiet Father's Day. Hopefully, while you're watching this video. Let me know what you're doing. Comment, sub. I'm curious. Thanks. All right. What are we talking about today? Let's start with this deck. Den is a legend. Den has been a card game player for a long time, and Den has figured out how to break Galactus in the new meta. Now, this deck isn't going to work forever. This isn't going to be where Galactus goes for all time. However, no one knows this deck exists, and it just steals cubes. This is complicated, so we're going to talk about how to play it. But what you need to do is you need to try this deck right away before other people know it exists. Why do you need to do that? Well, the big reason you need to do that is this deck is already getting people to Infinite in Conquest mode. Den's hit Infinite, and other players are hitting Infinite in Conquest mode, which is so frustrating to do because you can't take any losses. This is like an 4 and 8 cube machine in Conquest mode and on ladder. So what you're trying to do with this deck is you're trying to fundamentally fill a location on your opponent's side. The key way to do that is fundamentally to play the goblins, right? If you've got 2 goblins, Galactus needs to be winning. That's a -11 power in one lane, and now your Galactus can drop unless they have 18 power in that lane. That Galactus is winning that lane and winning the game. This is your turn 6 play. It locks stuff up. The other thing you can do here, well, there's a lot of other. You can drop Hood in a lane, and then you can Viper that Hood over. If you Iron Fist before you Viper, the Viper will push the Hood over and then push the Iron Fist out of that lane. There's an extra cheap goblin for you. You can do a similar trick with Ghost Spider. You can play Hood, then Viper it over, then play Ghost Spider to pull that Viper out of that lane. Debris is a little more complicated. Debris is going to require you to use Carnage, but like you're going to get so many cubes because when people see Debris, there's no way on earth they're thinking, oh, this is a Galactus deck, obviously, right? Unless they also watch this video, but that's the benefit of you being one of the early adopters of the channel. That's why you should sub. You get these decks before other people. So you play Debris. You can then do the same Viper trick if you haven't used Viper before, or you can use Carnage to eat that rock and then like Iron Fist or Ghost Spider to pull that Carnage out of the way. It's really great. It's really, really easy to fill the opponent's lane with stuff. Finally, once you've gotten a bunch of stuff in that opponent's lane, you can also have played, and it has to be a turn 4 or 5 play. You can also Spider Woman and Iron Fist to similarly get rid of a card. Remember, the direction Iron Fist punches things is left, so you want your Galactus to be the mid or right lane, obviously, preferably the far right lane. Also, if your opponent is avoiding location, planning on dropping something big in a location, you're worried about a location, Iron Fist on 4 into Spider-Man, or, no, it has to be Iron Fist in this case. Iron Fist on 4 into Spider-Man is another absolutely excellent way of making sure you have a nice, clear spot for Galactus. The other benefit of this deck is it does such a good job of mucking up opponents' boards, of putting stuff in places opponents doesn't want. It's got Spider-Woman as what amounts to almost always a 5/11 or 5/12 card. It's got Spider-Man to steal and lock down a lane that you can win games even without Galactus. This deck is the Cube Thief. Try it out. You are not going to be sad you did. You're going to love this build. This is I haven't played it. Again, I have not bought Galactus, but I've watched this played, and it is chef's kiss, an absolutely phenomenal deck. As always, we have 2 decks for you here today. The second deck, I've been sitting on this deck for a week, waiting for the right time to talk about it, the right deck to talk about it with. This is our friend King Koala. King Koala has been a member of our Discord forever. Every single season, King Koala hits infinite with Quake. Quake is one of the most underrated cards in the game. I am a true believer. This deck might want Silk if you have Silk. By the way, if Weekend Missions actually worked, my plan was to tell you to put Silk in that lizard spot and then do it that way. But oh well, what are you going to do? All right. So the best thing, like the Quake combo of this deck, is fundamentally to get Storm in a location. So it looks like you're going to play in that location. You don't then, and then in fact, you Quake and move that stormed off location elsewhere where your opponent has not been stacking power. At that point, you have multiple ways to go wide and lock down lanes and steal the game. Your opponent gets something big in a location, that's what Junk is for. If Storm is in one location, Spider-Man is another, they have very few places to play, if any, depending how they've filled locations. Jeff can meanwhile still get in places. Captain Marvel can fly into a stormed or Spider-Man location, and Doom can drop Doombots into these locations. Everything else in this deck is sort of just a power choice, a way to gain extra power to make sure you're winning lanes as cheaply as possible. Nebula, where opponents can't play, is obviously extremely strong. Craven not only benefits from Polaris and Jeff being in the deck, but making it potentially a 2/6, but also has the benefit in that a lot of people are playing Move, and Move is one of the ways you can counter the closing off of lanes. Let your opponents power up your card for you with your Craven. Luke Cage stomps out a bunch of High Evolutionary nonsense. High Evolutionary is a really, really frustrating thing. You're trying to win low power, and Luke Cage shuts that off. While Lizard, they're never filling a lane. Lizard is fundamentally always a 2/5. This deck is quite cool, and I strongly urge you to try it out. It's going to take some learning. King Koala is going to pop into the comments to be like, hey, you're going to lose when you first start playing this. It's true. I play this deck every season, the deck that he hits infinite with. It's always a little bit different every season. And I always like have this little learning curve where I lose a bunch of cubes right away. And then after a few games, something clicks, and like opponents don't know this deck, right? So it's really easy to gain cubes. All right. That is today's 2 decks. Thank you so much for watching. Please, 1, make sure you subscribe to this channel. 2, head over to Marvel Snap Zone and check out our weekly update. Let me know what you think. I really hope it's good. Put a lot of work into it. And 3, let me know how your Father's Day goes. If you have any plans, if you celebrate, if you hate it, how you feeling? Comment. Let me know. Thanks so much for watching today's Snap Take. See you Monday tomorrow for another one. Peace.